Commission to order and ask us all to begin with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. A reminder to commissioners that your red light button needs to be on if you want to be heard on the microphone. Before we begin this meeting, I would like to ask us all to observe a moment of silence in memory of Mike Scanlon, the former chair of this commission, please. Thank you. Commissioners, you've all had a chance to review the agenda. Staff, are there any changes to the agenda today? Okay, then may I have a motion to approve today's agenda? Commissioner Hentz moves, seconded by Commissioner Mueller. All in favor, raise the right hand, please. It's unanimous. Thank you. Minutes of the February 21st regular meeting were distributed. You all had a chance to see those. I had a question, though. Somebody brought to my attention, Shay, that the names of those who were in attendance were omitted from those. Is that a new practice, or is that just an oversight? So we will no longer... Attendance is noted but not included in the minutes. Is that okay? Great. Understanding that, then, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Commissioner Whaley moves, Vice Chair O'Neill seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, raise the right hand. Good. This would be a time for appearance by citizens for items that don't appear on today's agenda. Let me first ask Shay, are there any comments through the portal? Okay, so any citizens are here to speak with us on agenda on any item that's not on our agenda today? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. No unfinished business. We will move into new business, and that is consideration of a recommendation by the Gullah Geechee Land and Cultural Preservation Task Force recommending two programs. And Shay, will you be giving that presentation?
Yes, sir. Mr. Aaron Rucker will. He's our new comprehensive planning manager. I'd like to introduce him now to you, and I will pull this up for him. This is Aaron Rucker. He's joined us recently from North Myrtle Beach, and we're very happy to have him. So I'll turn it over to you. This is the memo that was presented to the commission.
Right, okay.
Welcome, Aaron.
It's a pleasure to be before you today, and I've only been here a short amount of time. This is, I think, 3.5 months in, but I have over 20 years of experience in the profession, and 17 of those were in North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. So I've been in the state for 17 years. So I'm brand new at this, and I want to go through this presentation, the information with you. I'm not sure the format that you all typically do. Do you want me to just read through it as if you would be reading, or paraphrase and kind of get to the summary?
Well, I think a summary would suffice. Everyone's had a chance to read the full document, so if you could just summarize for us.
Yes, sir. So the Gullah Geechee Land and Cultural Preservation Task Force, GDTF, met on Monday, March 4th, 2024, earlier this month. A program update on the Home Safety and Repair and Sewer Connection Program was on that agenda for discussion. Following due consideration, the Gullah Geechee Land and Cultural Preservation Task Force unanimously voted to recommend to you all, the Planning Commission, that the town's home safety, repair, and sewer connection programs continue to be funded at the proposed funding rate. The task force operates, of course, underneath your jurisdiction as a recommending body to you all. And that's what's before you today. They just wanted to make sure and emphasize their recommendation to you. Any questions that I can ask?
I had a couple. I'll let the rest of the commission go first. Any questions from the report that we received? I noticed that the initial, the first 21 months of the program was funded by the American Rescue Plan of 2021, and the balances are very small going into. So with the projects that are still pending, are there adequate funds left from that funding source to take care of those projects? Do you know?
I would have to get back to you on that. I'm not sure. I know it was within our division and department. It's still underneath our department, but that's transferred over to Christopher Yates and the chief building official. And so I'm not exactly sure how that funding works.
But the recommendation, we're being asked to recommend to town council to endorse the recommendation of the Gullah Geechee Task Force, and that's continued funding at the same level, and I'm trying to find out where that funding is.
Oh, in other words, what's the funding level?
Funding level, I'm
Oh,
assuming this
gotcha.
is for the next budget year.
It's for the next budget year, yes, sir. My understanding is it's a $900,000 budget proposal. Yeah, to continue to fund and maybe then some, this program.
Have your microphone on?
No, thank you. Just to follow up on Chairman's question, I'm not sure I understood your answer, or maybe you have to get back to us. So about $900,000 was funded out of the American Rescue Plan Act. So in addition to the obvious merits of the program, are you asking us to recommend to town council to take that out of the town budget now?
Well,
Add it to the town budget where it wasn't before, or are they going to offset it? Are you recommending something to offset it?
well, so the recommendation was specifically to endorse what has been discussed for that proposed amount going to town council. Right, so it's the proposed amount that's headed for consideration by town council that they wanted to emphasize a recommendation to you all endorse. And, yeah, I know Mr. Hens, is it? Yeah, I believe you're part of the task force, and if
Yes,
that's
yes.
how I understood it, yes, sir.
Yeah, I serve on this task force, and the budget had this funding in it to provide for this, and the task force voted to lift it up to us, to lift it up to town council to vote in favor of this, because we felt it was very important. The programs, the home safety and repair is an effort to do just that. It keeps people in their homes so they don't have to leave, and then the sewer connection speaks for itself. So the history, you see here what they've done in the past since the inception of these programs. Very important to the historic neighborhoods, and wanted to lift it up to this committee, vote in favor of it. And for town council, the funding source, I remember it, 900,000 sounds right, and I don't recall the source of that funding. So for this coming,
Which percentage is going from federal versus us?
I just don't recall the source of the funds at this point, but I know it was allocated in the budget.
In the budget, that's right.
I guess we're still asking the same, there's $29,000 left in one program and $1,600 in the other, but we're asking a $900,000 budget item to be recommended to town council. Is that the gist of it?
Yes, you're being asked to support the recommendation by the task force to send a recommendation of approval to town council to fund that proposed amount.
From a source different than the source that funded it for the last 21 months, is that right?
So I can't weigh into that because I don't know with confidence. I don't know with confidence. I can just tell you that as proposed, it's headed towards council.
Commissioner Mueller.
A different question. So this project funding, which I'm definitely for this type of work that we need to do on the island, mainly to assist and help the Gullah community. But would this finish out this project, or is it just the funding for this year?
No, I'm sorry, we're talking about next fiscal year, 25. So the monies that were approved in fiscal year 24, we're still operating.
Right, so
under
25 would finish it out in 25, or?
July 1, it turns over to the fiscal year 25, right? So
This doesn't finish, you're never finished.
Gotcha.
Homes continue to deteriorate. This is just for another year.
Gotcha, okay, good.
that funding would be fiscal year 25, beginning July 1st, that town council is currently considering.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's fine. The American Rescue Plan?
This was in the budget, and we're just affirming that, yes, we want you to vote. Yes, we want you to vote in favor of this budget proposal.
It's already in there, yes.
Nothing was added by the task force.
Right. It's just a reaffirmation, exactly.
Reaffirmation
Yes.
that it's important to the
important.
Gullah Geechee community, and we want that to be known, that we like this program, continue funding it.
And why the same level? Certain number of things.
Not knowing the source, the town has so much money to support these two programs, and we're asking them to continue to support it as they have in the past. So, no, they're just ongoing, yeah. So it's, the amount of money is not dictated by the amount of projects that we're looking at, because the projects continue to come in. Yeah, this is how much we can spend for these two purposes for this coming fiscal year.
Other commissioner comments or questions? Vice Chair O'Neill?
Just so I make sure I understand this. So we have a 900,000, and I understand too, that the commission doesn't deal with the finances. So we just have to deal with the appropriateness of the recommendation. But we've had $570,000 committed so far, is my understanding, against a $900,000 grant from I was going to say the Affordable Care Act, the American Rescue Plan. And it's up to council to balance with the other financial implications that we have going forward. So it's really, does this thing make sense? And is that the number that we've spent so far, which it feels to me to be right? So.
And I agree, it's not up to us to come up with the funding sources for these, but I did want to try and make sure that everybody understood what we were talking about. So, other discussion or questions? Yes, Mr. DePaul.
Prior to the meeting, I looked over materials that we were providing. It seemed to me like the program is being utilized in a pretty widespread way across different areas of the island. So I thought that was a positive thing to note while we're considering the programs.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Is anybody willing to make a motion? Recommend town council supported by Vice Chair O'Neill. Questions or comments before we ask for the vote? All in favor of sending this on to town council with our recommendation, raise your right hand. It is unanimous. Okay, and I think that's the end of the business portion of the meeting. We do have a board training on the land management ordinance that we're going to try to squeeze into today's session. So, Shay, are you going to be working with us on that? Okay.
Good afternoon, Shay Farrar for the record with Community Development. I'd like to point out prior to the training that we do have a sign-in form on the table in the rear. If you would make sure to sign in before you leave, if you've not already done that. And then we will begin. The training today is based on the land management ordinance and a brief introduction to the upcoming meeting that we have in April. So as you're all aware, many of you are attracted to the town because of this reason, but we have a very rich history in zoning. We're recognized as a leader in both environmental protections as well as protecting the character of development. State law enables zoning in municipalities, and that's through the 1994 Comprehensive Planning Act. That is the most recent major legislation for planning in the state. It establishes baseline requirements for adoption of a comprehensive plan and zoning ordinance. The comprehensive plan must be a long-term plan for development and growth, a blueprint for the overall community, and it must be in place, specifically the land use element, before a community can adopt a zoning ordinance. The zoning ordinance is a day-to-day regulatory document controlling land use of individual parcels in the community. Two of the primary roles of the Planning Commission is to develop and adopt the comprehensive plan as well as the zoning ordinance. The purpose of the ordinance is to guide development in accordance with existing and future needs of the community and to promote public health, safety, morals, convenience, order, appearance, prosperity, and general welfare according to the state's law. All these ordinances must be grounded in the town's comprehensive plan. In 1983, when the town incorporated, a major driver of that was the lack of regulation for development by Beaufort County. In the years that followed, the town established itself as a leader in zoning through beginning the development of the adoption of their own ordinances. In 1986, the town adopted the Comprehensive Tree Ordinance. In 1987, that was the town's first full land management ordinance. It addressed signs, natural resource ordinances for trees, beaches, wildlife, waterways, and in 1995, Comprehensive Wetland Protection Ordinance was adopted that even expanded upon the protections from the 1987 LMO. In 2009, a Critical Storm Protection and Dune Accretion Ordinance was adopted for increased protections along our beachfront. In 2014 was the last major adoption of the Land Management Ordinance, and since then we've had an annual update schedule in addition to updates as needed based on community's desires. Currently, we are in a multi-phase process of revisions and assessment that we will speak to a little bit more later in the training. So here we are, we have our land management ordinance. The town's land management ordinance is made up of two parts. It's made up of the text and the zoning map. The text includes all of our zoning districts, our permitted uses, the general and specific standards for development, as well as the administration and enforcement. The zoning map sets forth the location of these districts within the town. And the town is classified into several base zoning districts. We have here our zoning map, and you'll see the majority of it is our planned unit development district, which is the cream color, which are our major planned communities. There are over 20 zoning districts currently part of our map. The LMO text itself is broken down into 10 chapters in 4 appendices. And I will walk you through the process of finding and navigating this on the town's website, hopefully to be helpful to you as you work through the different applications. So here we have basically our Google search or Bing search for the town of Hilton Head Island. Navigate to our website under government. Oh. So it's not. Are you able to? You're not able to? I'll close this, and I'll have to reopen it, but maybe that will. Appears to be frozen. Okay, thank you for bearing with me. Always exciting with technical difficulties. Okay. So from the landing page for the town, under government and then land management ordinance, you'll be taken to our online Muni code. On the left side of the page, you have our directory. The first chapter of the 10 is our general chapter, which has an overview of the ordinance, the authority, the purpose and intent, the applicability, as well as the relationship of the regulations to our comprehensive plan. Chapter 2 is the administration, where it identifies specific review procedures for the Planning Commission applications, for example. In Chapter 3, we have our zoning districts that are established with specific regulations. There are zones that are primarily residential. There are zones that are mixed, commercial. There are also overlay zones that regulate on top of the base zoning districts. Chapter 4 contains our use standards. You're saying this, okay. So that will address basically everything that has to do with your principal and accessory uses, any specific conditions that are related to uses is found in this chapter. Chapter 5 is our development and review, development design standards. For example, setbacks, buffers, streets, open space, traffic analysis, parking and loading, site lighting. All of these are part of what staff reviews when reviewing development applications. Chapter 6 covers our natural resource protections. We have specific provisions for wetlands, beach and dunes, and tree protections. Chapter 7 covers our nonconformities. 8 is enforcement. And then we have special provisions for disaster recovery, and then general rules of measurement, definitions, and then the appendices speak to the specific advisory and decision-making bodies. So here is actually where you'll find very specific provisions related to the Planning Commission's roles and duties and under which you're operating now. So that's a general overview of what the Land Management Ordinance has in it and how it's organized. Now, please bear with me. I'm going to go back to our presentation. So from here, I wanted to speak a little bit about the applications that the Planning Commission reviews specifically that are established in our Land Management Ordinance. You review our zoning map amendments, you review our text amendments, public project reviews, street names, development plans and subdivisions, plan unit development, zoning, an annual traffic and monitoring and evaluation report, and development plans and subdivisions is a duplication. But so those are the major applications that come through the Planning Commission, where you either make a decision or you make a recommendation to town council. Of most interest currently, at our next meeting on April 17th, we will have multiple public project reviews as well as a land management ordinance text amendment that will come before you. So specific to those two applications, you have the text amendment standards for review that guide your assessment and recommendation for the request. Here you can see the process for that, and you'll see at the bottom of the graphic that the decision-making body is ultimately town council, and above that, your recommendation to town council and accompanied by a public hearing. The process that you go through for the evaluation of a text amendment is to review it in accordance with the comprehensive plan. There are certain questions that must be asked that are set out in the LMO, and they are as follows. Is it in accordance with the comprehensive plan? Is it required by changed conditions? Does it address a demonstrated need in the community? Is it consistent with the purpose and intent of the zoning districts in the ordinance, or would improve compatibility among uses and ensure efficient development within the town? Would it result in a logical and orderly development pattern? And it would not result in significant adverse impacts on the natural environment, including but not limited to water, air, noise, stormwater management, wildlife, vegetation, wetlands, and the natural functioning of the environment. So, as I stated, at the next meeting, you will have the opportunity to review a proposed LMO amendment. The other applications that you will be reviewing will include a public project review, and it's been a while since we've had one that's come through the Planning Commission, so I wanted to take this opportunity to give you a brief introduction. The public project reviews are for any public project that takes place within the town. So, for example, a new roadway or a new park, those have to be evaluated for consistency with the town's comprehensive plan. So when you review the public projects, you're reviewing them specifically for compatibility with the comprehensive plan relative to the location of the project, the character of the project, and the extent of the project. So staff will be making reports for each of these that will outline those facts that you can then make a recommendation from. So following that, we come to current land management ordinance updates. We are in the process right now of a major assessment of our land management ordinance, and I would like to invite Aaron back up to speak to that project and close out the training. So if you'll just bear with us a few more minutes, we will finalize this.
Okay, so back to the LMO, right, in the ordinance, and really the document that governs code for the built environment, right? So it's pretty important and critical. Previous LMO amendments have already been adopted. You may remember those as phases 1 through 3. Fairly certain they came before you all. Many of you, all of you perhaps looked at those in review as or forwarded on to town council for adoption. So those have already been cleared and done. And there was a process, my understanding, last year got to phase 4 and took a step back. So we're really back to phase 4, and I'll get to that here in a second. So part of the, that was 2023, previous phase 1 through 3. Now we're in 2024, current, the updates, the current updates. So concurrent with following planning efforts for the 8 district plans, and I'm sure you all have heard about these: Skull Creek, Parkway Arts, Bridge to Beach, Marshes, Mid-Island, Forest Beach, Chaplin, and Main Street. There are LMO changes underway. And so just as, information purposes, Skull Creek and Parkway Arts districts and an introduction to the LMO with updates, schedules, better understanding, scope, that sort of thing, is coming to this body, Planning Commission, May 9th. No, I'm sorry, it's not this body, the Public Planning Committee, I'm sorry, May 9th, not this body. And so there'll be an introduction to the Public Planning Committee on those two districts, as well as where we are in current updates with our LMO Phase 4. There have been multiple code amendments identified as part of this effort. They're broken down and prioritized into short-term and long-term amendments, short and long-term. We're going to focus right now on the short-term amendments. So these priority amendments are 11, okay? And they were approved by the Public Planning Committee back in January this year, first of the year, for further review. So this is what staff is working on and reviewing and analyzing. We brought in a consultant. You may have heard Code Studio. Code Studio is our consultant that's helping us. But it's to tackle these 11. First is single-family mass and scale. We're looking to recalibrate some of those. Recalibrating some of those requirements. Same with single-family parking, again, to recalibrate. Subdivision regulations, looking at design, connectivity, how can we bring that more into our code? Major DPR and major sub-processes, that involves this body, and there's a chart, we're looking at review of that. Open space standards, looking at those requirements. Traffic impact analysis, looking at the thresholds, potentially putting in some multimodal as part of that requirement. Number 7, tree protection, strengthening those protections. Sign standards, we need to go to content neutral based on a famous court case that went through the Supreme Court. Number 9, short-term rentals. I know that's a big topic, and we're looking at how to address that and better regulate that, manage that. Number 10, food trucks, regulations on food trucks. And finally, workforce housing, such as North Point, and how we accommodate through our LMO code development like North Point. So we're working hard diligently on that now and through the end of the month, and with the consultant on through April, and we're really teeing it up to go to the Public Planning Committee in May to present where we are at more of a high level, right? We're not ready to get into the adoption phase and go through specific code, but high level, right? High level policy is what we're going to be talking about, in addition to those districts, those two that I mentioned. And as Shay mentioned, coming back to you, this body, April 17th, you're going to take a look at forest beach overlay and floor area ratio requirements as part of your review. This has already gone to town council. It's now coming to you for review, and there's some changes that are proposed in that amendment. Shay, I think that concludes what I had to say and what we wanted to tell you and bring you up to speed with on the training.
Thank you, Aaron. Are there questions of Aaron, or Shay, on this presentation? Commissioner Whaley?
Absolutely. Right?
Not on again. So I've asked to go back to slide 15 or 16. The genesis of these these areas of priority, and then if you flip it forward to 16 in particular,
Right.
slide 16, please. Now, I was out sick a couple of times last year, but I don't remember seeing any of these, and I thought in my training for being on the commission, I thought all these things come through the commission to the planning committee. So did these go to the planning committee, or did they come to the planning commission? I just missed those meetings. I thought the process in South Carolina was for the planning commission to oversee and coordinate activity to go up to town council, and the planning committee is a sub-arm of the town council. So this go through the planning committee, the town council before coming to the commission? Because I'm not recognizing any of them.
Well, you are correct. These will come through the planning commission once they are refined. The Public Planning Committee is our body that is helping us prioritize and develop the recommendations that will then go through the process of adoption. When they are going through the process of adoption, that will begin with the Planning Commission. So I would say we're making higher level prioritizations with the Public Planning Committee, and once we have, in coordination with our consultant, drafted language, that will come through the Planning Commission.
Yeah, apologize if that wasn't clear. At that January meeting, that's where we received direction by Public Planning Committee to focus on those areas of the LMO. And thinking about short-term versus long-term, those were the short-term, that was the short-term list that came about that now we are forwarding on. And certainly, absolutely has to come back to you for those codes, and it definitely will.
Yeah, and so the genesis of my question, and I'll make it brief, is I must have misunderstood my other training because it was pretty clear in the South Carolina regs that the whole purpose of the Planning Commission is not only to do the strategic plan, to be the origin and genesis of that, and then move it up, but it's everything to do with land management ordinances is supposed to have its roots in the commission. So I don't want to belabor it, but now I'm totally confused because having just spent a lot of time going through, my introductory training as a commissioner, this seems inconsistent with the process that's laid out by the state regulators who created that training. So I just want to sort of note that.
Yes, ma'am. You are not incorrect. You are correct in the state's enabling legislation and the function of the Planning Commission. We are identifying at a higher level the issues that we want to address and need to address, and we are working in conjunction with town council, who is able to instigate requested amendments. So we are working through that process and will then bring that language through the Planning Commission. So, and we will also incorporate the Planning Commission into our public review process. So there's more to come on the LMO amendment process, but we're getting higher level strategic direction based on our strategic plan of how council would like us to address these. That will then come to the Planning Commission for adoption and modification of the LMO. So the process that we are in with town council is also legally sound and viable process that we can use.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Peter, Mr. Christian.
Who can initiate a land management ordinance change? What different bodies within the town can?
Well, I will pull this up from our land management ordinance to be safe if I can find it quickly. If not, Peter, I will need to get that clarification back to you. I believe that, Peter, I'm going to just say this. I believe that the Planning Commission and Town Council are the bodies that
So
can.
it could initiate right from this body right here.
Yes, sir.
And it could also initiate from a committee of the town council, the town council themselves. Can the town manager initiate that without going to planning commission or council committee?
I cannot answer that. Off the
The
top.
answer is no, but
Yes, so,
But the planning commission has the authority to write a land management ordinance change and run it up through the chains, council, subcommittee, and then it goes both ways, is where I'm going.
Yes.
So town council, subcommittee town council can drive it toward the planning commission, but you gentlemen and ladies can also come up with land management ordinance change and recommend it to the subcommittee of the town council to see if they want to act on it.
Yes, sir.
Am I correct there?
That is correct.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? Sounds like we're good, so thank you, Aaron and Shay, for
Thank you.
conducting the training. There's no chairman's report or other commission business that I'm aware of. Are there staff reports today, Shay?
Yes, sir.
Nothing else. Anything else that anyone else wants to bring up? Otherwise, we will stand adjourned. Thank you.